Football Monday here on Birds 365, show number 502. We are so glad to have Jeff Kerr here. We missed by 2 shows of getting him on our 500 show, which would have been fitting because we enjoy Steve. Jeff, don't call me Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
Whenever he hops on our show. All right, first thing before we get to the whole football thing. Why didn't you come knocking on the window of the broadcast booth I was in yesterday with Glenn Macnow? You shoot me a text afterwards and, I just saw you, John. You look great. But then you go to your seat at 12 o'clock. You had to what? Because they were giving out the rings. You had to be in the seat by noon. What the hell? Why didn't you wait around? Why didn't you let me give you a bro hug?
Oh, you were on the air. I don't want to bug you that much.
Come on. We do this on the air thing all the time. You wait a couple of minutes, you're off the air. You can shoot the breeze, whatever you want. I'm sorry.
Blame my dad. He wanted the pretzel.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said he was probably holding court, Jeff Kerr, as the champion bowler. Did you win? I saw you were in the running at least.
We finished top 10, so top 10 cash. We finished top 10, so that's the first time we finished outside the top 10 that tournament the last couple of years, and we just said all we had to do was shoot our average or a little higher. We had 2 big performances.
All right, so you got some money to buy those pretzels. That's good.
Exactly.
That's good. Although
I can afford to pay to park at the
Park. You might need a couple bowling tournaments to buy a pretzel.
Couple of wins. Now, where did you bowl?
You know where Burke's Lanes is? It's outside of Reading.
Reading. Ooh, so you had to take a bit of a drive.
Yeah, it wasn't that far for me. I would say it's about 20, 25 minutes from where I live.
You can get to Reading in 25 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Just take 422 straight down.
I thought then I don't know where Jeff Kerr lives. I thought I did. I don't know. But it doesn't matter because you come on here, you stream on with us. That's all we need you for. All right. Eagles in the draft. John and I were just talking about how Howie Roseman's going to move and shake and be all over the place. And I always get tentative about that because we can sit here and we can figure out. I just asked Johnny Mac, would you be willing to move down to 28? How much would you need in return? Well, the other team's got to want it. That's why I brought it up, because I can make a case for Cincinnati really wanting to get up and take someone like Bijan Robinson. Do we unfairly just expect Howie's going to be able to wave his magic wand and get wherever he wants in the draft?
It is fair to think he's going to want to at least trade down. I heard John say about trading down from 30 because you're right. The 4th, 5th, or 6th round, he won't have anything. And I think there will be a team like, say, Baltimore in 2018. They traded up to 32 to get Lamar Jackson. And was it a luxury pick for the Eagles? No, but it was a pick at the end of the 1st round, and that includes a 5th-year option. So I think a team is going to find a player they want. And we all know the draft always has these surprise first-rounders and guys that we think are going to be slam dunk first-round picks, and they're not. And some of those picks are still there, and Eagles have 30 of 31. So you're thinking, okay, maybe they trade up, and the Eagles will get, say a 4th back, maybe a 5th, maybe another 3rd. Who knows what the parameters of the deal is going to be? But I think it's more likely that 30 pick isn't at 30 for the Eagles, because to me the 10th pick is a luxury pick, and I think it depends on how the board plays out. If there are certain guys that are going to be available, which I think there are, I think the Eagles keep that 10th pick, or maybe they even trade up.
Well, Peter King threw a log on the fire this morning talking about Bijan. People can't stop talking about Bijan Robinson and the Philadelphia Eagles and projecting him here in this offense. Jody's heard me mention this a bunch of times. I'm going to run it by you, Jeff. In a lot of ways, I think having a great running back sort of limits the effectiveness of Jalen Hurts, because part of Jalen Hurts's skill set is being the +1 in the running game, helping the running back. If you have a great running back, and I think Bijan Robinson has the opportunity to be a great running back, what do? You turn around and hand the football off. In some ways, I think it's counterintuitive, but I think it would hurt the Eagles' offense by taking the zone read mechanics, taking the RPO mechanics off the table, especially with a young play caller. Remember, no more Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, first-time NFL play caller. If you have a great running back, turn around, hand the ball up to the great running back. I don't want to limit Jalen Hurts. I don't want to limit you. Am I crazy, Jeff Kerr?
I don't think. Man, this one's tough, John, because I'd love to see Bijan Robinson on this team specifically because of what he can provide for him. But I'm just maybe under the impression, and I know you kind of are like this too. I'd be shocked if the Eagles drafted Bijan Robinson at 10 overall. It's just not their MO. They're going to draft in the trenches. I think we all know this, that they're going to draft in the trenches here. So if Bijan Robinson was at 10 and the Eagles are sitting at 10,
I think they might trade. I think they might trade out if somebody wants them. Not as far as Jody. Jody was saying 28. I think they'd go to 15, maybe 16. If there were a cluster of players that they liked and they felt that they could get one of them, I could see that, but I can't see them taking them at 10 overall.
I can't hear, like, people want to talk about the Jalen Carter thing. I think that stuff is more than legit just because that's what they do. They draft players like that. And you add him with a Jordan Davis, but Bijan Robinson, they haven't drafted a running back in the first round since what, 1986?
Keith Byers, whatever year. Well, I'll give you this. I did the math. I had 16 top 30 visits for the Eagles so far. I could have missed one or two, but I had 16. 8 were defensive linemen, either edge rushers or interior guys. 3 were offensive linemen. 4 were corners and Bijan Robinson. And that kind of tells you I always tell Jody themes. Top 30 visits are about themes. They're looking at defensive linemen, offensive linemen, cornerbacks. That's what they're looking at.
Makes plenty of sense, honestly. And when they brought in Bijan Robinson, I'm like, okay, I kind of like this. They're doing their due diligence with this guy. It's not they're completely ignoring him, and you can't because he probably is going to be there at 10. This is what I think is unfortunate with the state of the running back position. If someone asked me to name the top 5 players in the draft, Bijan Robinson would easily be on that list. He is that good of a football player. So I think that's where the whole Eagles should get him at 10 hype is coming. And it's not like they need a running back. Again, that's a luxury pick, but it's just them, Washington. I don't think Washington's drafted their running back since 70 or 71. And the Texans are the 3 teams that just don't draft running backs in the first round. Texas never draft a running back in the first round. So I just can't see it happen. Now that they traded down and he's still there, maybe, but I just can't see them trading down from 10 at this point in time. I just think they're kind of hoping that those Easter eggs of Jalen Carter kind of fall in their basket. And if he's there, I expect
that's the biggest no-brainer in Eagles history if he's there. I don't think he's going to be there. Because if the Eagles decide there are no issues off the field, or at least that they're not worried about those off the field issues, somebody else is going to be in that same category. And somebody else is taking a kid before number 10. So I can't imagine him getting to 10, but if he gets to 10, yeah, they're taking him.
Easily.
Worst case scenario is he falls through the first 8, and then the Bears take him at 9, who John has railed on this offseason, maybe the worst run football team over the last 12 months in the National Football League, and they get the kid at 9 right in front of the Eagles at 10. If he does get to 9, by the way, I think the Bears are taking him, so we'll see how that shakes out. I got a question on your visitation list, John. 8 defensive linemen, did you say, and 3 offensive linemen?
Yeah.
So 11 out of the 16 are in the trenches. Oh, that's shocking with the Eagles. How many? Now, hold on. You do have there's your usual way of building a team roster, building everything else, and then there's in the moment and the roster that you currently have. Right now, they're scheduled to start a linebacker who they paid the veteran minimum to, who's a little bit undersized, who's going to be asked to replace T.J. Edwards, who had a pretty damn good year for them last year, correct? And they're going to ask
Nicholas Morrow. Yeah.
Nicholas Morrow. Good luck with that. And I do like Edmonds, but we got the whole, does he fit what they used to do? Is there going to be a change to the defense? I don't know what kind of player Evans is going to be. So they got a couple of one-year guys coming in to try and replace C.J. Gardner-Johnson and FC. And, yeah, Blankenship's in that mix, but he, too, second-year undrafted player. Don't at some point you need to think about replacing guys who have left who are really good players for you? You bought like these safety net free agent minimal payment guys to just have on your roster. How many linebackers and safeties have they had in for pre-draft visits, John?
I guess you could argue Julius Brent could be moved to safety. Kansas State, they've looked at a bunch of the cornerbacks they're looking at are sort of lengthy guys. And maybe that's their thought because remember, I mean, they moved CJ. Maybe that's their thought process because they want coverage guys, which is why I don't understand Terrell.
Right.
It is so. You never know what they're thinking, but obviously he played corner in college, so you have to project him more there. I've seen some people project him to safety, so you never know. But they haven't looked at a linebacker, to my knowledge. And if they did take him, it would be certainly second, third round, or day 3. And right now they don't have day 3 picks except the seventh round, so that's not going to help you. Yeah, I mean they don't care about linebackers. They proved that. If T.J. Edwards didn't prove that to people, Jeff Kerr, who else will? Because not only did he become a good player, the Eagles found him. They should be proud. He was undrafted. Nobody wanted him. And you could throw out your chest and say, we found T.J. Edwards. Look at this guy. PFF said he was an all-pro. Blah, blah, blah. Look at how good we are. Look how smart we are. And they said, nope. $6.5 million. Oh, go to Chicago. They don't care about that position. Is that unfair to say?
Oh, I think it's more than fair. I don't think they've cared about that position since they tagged Jeremiah Trotter and let him walk. That told me 20 years ago that okay, they don't care about linebacker as much as we think they do. In fact, I was even told this all season. T.J. Edwards was one of those players. They said, go test your market, but please come back to us and we'll match it. Well, they didn't want to match it, I guess, because of the whole – and this was on Monday, too. We got to remember this. He was one of the first players to sign.
16 minutes. He was the first player, I believe.
Yeah, and, I'm sure the whole – this was the whole – they were making a push to re-sign CJ. So they probably figured, okay, we're trying to keep this guy. We can't pay a linebacker $6.5 million per season. And I'm like, well, it's not exactly a bad deal for T.J. Edwards. I think I would have kept him at that. And that just showed me how little they can. And then they bring in Nicholas Morrow, which I like him against the pass, but he was terrible against the run last year, John.
He's Eric Wilson without the playmaking ability.
0.2, yes.
Oh, but he had 100 tackles.
Yeah. No, but Eric Wilson would make interceptions and make plays and passes. He's Eric Wilson without the playmaking ability.
It's a good comparison.
To say it.
It's a really good comparison.
All right, Steve Kerr, we've asked all of our guests here over the last week or so, how big a need is an upgrade at wide receiver 3 for the Eagles as far as you're concerned?
Depends who's there. Zacchaeus is still in the market. I wouldn't mind that. He might be.
We've mentioned that. Everybody says that.
He might be the best offensive free agent left now because he's better than Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, I think everybody's better. You know what? I gotta give a shout out to my boy Andrew Pacheco because he's been on the Zacchaeus train. I feel like since January. Oh, if the Eagles go after a free agent, this might be a good bargain signing. Keep in mind, this is January. We're talking about
Xander might be on the Zacchaeus bandwagon since St. Joe's Preps.
That's true. That's where I think they all get it from. He played for the Prep, so there you go. I can see Xander doing cartwheels at Zacchaeus size of the Eagles.
And they brought a couple of homeboys home last year, like White. And let him walk out the door at linebacker, too. So if you're just talking about a one-year fix, I get that. But, a lot of guys have jumped in here. I'm a Jarvis Landry guy. And I know he's had better years elsewhere, but we are well into April now, and he hasn't signed. So if his price tag was an issue, that's part of the reason why he hasn't signed. At some point, he's got to come to the realization All right, they're not looking at me like OBJ. I'm not getting that contract. Where would I want to go where I can actually take a chance at a championship? The Eagles were able to get a couple of guys in season last year at the defensive tackle position who Johnny Mack called ring chasers, and I didn't disagree with that. Can they make that kind of a sale to a wide receiver 3 to come in here and say, yeah, listen, you're down in the pecking order of where you're going to get targets, but it is Jalen Hurts. He's coming off an MVP runner-up season. We can have a pretty damn good year. You can contribute to it. Can the fact that the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender help them in picking up a guy to fill out that wide receiver 3 spot?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they could convince one of these veterans to come here. It's, I honestly feel if the price tag wasn't super high, you could even convince a guy like Odell Beckham to come here. But Odell wanted $20 million a year. He got 15. But say he wanted 4 or 5. I think that's where Kansas City thought they had a shot at him. And I was told like Kansas City would even go up to like 7 or 8. But past that, there was no way. It just wasn't in the budget. But John, doesn't it feel like though they really just want to kind of give Quez that number 3 role again next year based on what Nick Sirianni has said? And and to me, maybe it was just watching him in the locker room last year. Didn't it feel like when he was frustrated, it was more of himself and him costing the team than maybe just him. And it's hard to explain, right? Like you could tell the guy was frustrated at times, but it didn't feel like it was a lack of targets.
No, he accepted his role. I don't think that was a problem at all. Quez was disappointed himself. He said after the season, he had a bad season. Obviously, if he makes that catch in the Super Bowl, things are much different. He knows he had a bad season. Yeah, and the Eagles kind of know, if they were in a different phase, we were talking about roster building, maybe they would look for a significant upgrade. But 2 problems with that is the traffic. OBJ is not going to be happy here. Even if they had 15 million lying around to pay him, he's not going to be happy here.
I don't think he's going to be happy in Baltimore either.
I mean, he's going to, you can't justify traffic.
He'll be wide receiver 1 in Baltimore.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, he's going to get the most targets in Baltimore.
AJ Brown's here, Devontae Smith's here, Dallas Goedert. He's not going to get the football here. So I've even brought that up with Jody, with Jarvis Landry, even because Jarvis is a 4-time Pro Bowl receiver. Yeah, he's in a different phase of his career, but he's used to having the football. He's not used to, you might get it once in the first half. You might get it once in the second half. You're unlikely to be the first option on many routes. I think role players are sort of underrated for accepting their role. So, yeah, I think the Eagles want to give Quez one more opportunity. But to me, and I've constantly said this to Jody as well, to me, it's about what's behind Quez Watkins. Zach Pascal's gone. One of the few receivers to get 2 years. We were going down that. There's like, how many were there, Jody? 9 receivers who got 2-year deals. That's it. And Zach Pascal was one of them. He was an important part of this offense, a little bit different because they're so run heavy with the RPO stuff, the zone read stuff. They don't have Zach Pascal. And the guys they have behind, the Britton Coveys of the world, Devin Allens,
they need depth.
Greg Ward. They need to add some kind of body at the wide receiver position. And if it's a young kid who beats out Quez Watkins, great. But yeah, got to find a receiver somewhere. And it's probably going to be in the draft.
I don't like how, and I heard some fans say this, well, Quez should be cut. I'm like, who are you cutting him for? Well, a rookie. Okay. Are you still going to cut him for a rookie knowing, like you said, it's Devin Allen, it's Greg Ward, it's Britton Covey. Right now, Britton Covey's roster spot is safe on this football team.
Right now it is, yeah. Tyree Cleveland, if you like him, he's around.
Tyree Cleveland. I haven't heard that name since training camp.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they need to add some kind of competition, and they will. And we still have June 1st, and we still have guys who can be cut after the draft. And maybe it's a veteran, and maybe they bring in more significant competition. But if they don't unseat Quez as the third receiver, I don't think they're going to be terribly upset because he's getting 2-3 targets a game. How upset could you be? Now, if somebody turns an ankle, if somebody gets hurt, then you got some real issues because he's not capable of being a second receiver.
You know what upset me about the wide receivers in free agency? What, like only 9 guys got multi-year deals? I thought Jakobi Meyers, if you put him with a decent quarterback, was far and away the best receiver in this class. And that ain't saying much, by the way. But then New England gives Juju 3 years, and Vegas gives Myers 3 years. I'm like, I think Myers could be a steal at that price, even with Garoppolo. I just feel like he's going to have those bigger seasons. And I can't stand Josh McDaniels, but I just feel like that was a really good signing for a team that's made a lot of them this offseason.
You like what the Raiders have done, huh?
What's that?
You like what the Raiders have done, Jeff?
I like them signing Jakobi Meyers. I still don't get what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Alan Lazard, Jody's Jets are the only team to give a receiver 4 years. Alan Lazard.
And I kind of like that deal for the Jets, too, because I think Alan Lazard is a better player than most people do.
Yeah, well, I think they're trying to make Aaron Rodgers happy. But luckily, the Jets have Garrett Wilson, who I think is a really, really good player. He's only going to get better. Then it was Jakobi Meyers, as you mentioned, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Then it was 33-year-old, soon-to-be 33-year-old Adam Thielen. That's how bad the wide receiver market. 33-year-old guy.
It was not a good group for wide receivers. It was a good group for running backs, but again, you saw that market played out.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff Kerr, we may or may not have you on again before the draft comes down. I want to jump away from the Eagles for a second. You're the Carolina Panthers. You got the first pick in the draft. Which quarterback you taking?
Bryce Young, all day long. To me, Bryce Young is, I've said this since January, he's by far the best quarterback in the draft. Don't overthink it. I don't care about the size. I think Bryce Young's going to be a stud in the National Football League.
Remember when we have Kerr back on next year, Johnny Mac, by far the best quarterback in the draft. I don't think
he's the best quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback.
By far? Are you going as far as Kerr is? By far? He's going to be far better than C.J. Stroud?
I think he's the only quarterback that could develop into – I think he's got I'll say this. If you're going to throw by far, I'll say by far the highest ceiling as a prospect.
That's basically what I meant. Like, if you're looking at who's the guy that can win me a Super Bowl, Bryce Young is the guy.
Who's got a lower floor between Stroud and Young?
Well, that might be Stroud.
Yeah, that might be.
He might have a higher floor.
It may be just this Neanderthal way of thinking for me. I do not trust Ohio State quarterbacks to save my life.
Yeah, that's Neanderthal.
Never scout the helmet.
Yeah, all right, I get to do this with Jeff Kerr. I love doing it. Jeff Kerr wouldn't have drafted Joe Burrow because there hadn't been a good quarterback coming out of LSU since
was he at Ohio State?
God forbid you take an LSU quarterback. History says you can't take an LSU quarterback. So screw that Joe Burrow guy. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot ball.
Technically, he was in Ohio State.
Yeah, he was. But hold on a second.
Technically, he was also
they
an
played
Ohio
JT
State
Barrett over Joe Burrow, and I used to argue that one for years.
Well, you can't because people make bad decisions. Well, I mean, Justin Fields was at Georgia. Who beat out him? Was it Bennett?
No,
who
beat out?
No.
Jake
Fromm.
Fromm.
Jake Fromm beat out Justin Fields.
Because Stetson Bennett's been playing for 8 years, so I figured.
Here's the thing: I love Justin Fields as a player. I think Justin.
How can you? He's an Ohio State quarterback.
He went to Georgia first. I don't know anymore. These guys.
Jake Fromm, though. Jake Fromm. Georgia's pretty good, right? They're a pretty good program. Yeah. They thought Jake Fromm was better than Justin Fields.
Which I don't get, by the way. I still don't get. I don't know what they were thinking there. They did all that maneuvering to make sure they got Justin Fields into their program. Justin Fields could have went anywhere, and you don't play him right away? I never understood that.
That was pretty dumb on Georgia's part. I think we can all agree on that. But, Jeff, you got to move off the, oh, my God, a quarterback hasn't come out of that university before thinking. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, what about Ohio State wide receivers? I'll draft one of them any day of the week.
Yeah, I'll draft Marvin Harrison tomorrow.
Yeah,
he might be the best running the best wide receiver prospect in this draft, and he's not even eligible.
Exactly. And I like Njigba. I hope
he's a good player too. I really like him.
That'll be really tempting. I think he's gonna go somewhere in the teens. But if he drops down to 30, Howie, are you paying attention? Yeah, wide receiver 3, you get a value at number 30 like that. I think he's going to be a star. All right, Jeff Kerr, always a pleasure. Glad to hear you won some money bowling this week. Still ticked off that you didn't knock on the glass and come in and say hi to me and Mac now yesterday. But thank you for jumping in today.
Next Phillies game, I'm going to bang on the door while you.
2 weeks from now, we'll be back down there again. You better stop by and say hi.
It was funny, too, because I was going up the escalator to my seat. I'm like, hey, look, there's Jody Mac. I'm like, maybe I should go bug him. And I walked past, and you guys were yicking and yakking. I don't know what you guys were talking about at the time. I was listening to you guys on the way down. There was a lot of what were you guys talking? Oh, you guys had Ray on yesterday, so we were listening to Ray's.
Right. You got your football fix while going to the Eagles game. You got the best of both worlds, Kerr.
Yeah. Didn't have any traffic going down either.
Exactly. All right, Jeff Kerr, thank you very much. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks. Appreciate it, bud.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
CBSSports.com, NFL writer Jeff Kerr here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We still got more than an hour left to play. Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports is going to jump in with us a couple of minutes. I want to go further with the Eagle visits. Johnny ran down the tally that he's got on them so far this offseason. Do we make too much of this? Because right now the Eagles have 6 picks. They've got 30 visits, so there's going to be 20. Even if they pick someone that absolutely showed up and they visited, with 24 of the guys aren't going to get picked. But we do scrutinize this, and I think we should, or should we? I'll ask John McMullen that next here on Birds 365.